be educated, but I'm so frustrated.
Hey, Mindset.
Hey, what's up, man?
I got a question for you. Who is the Wizard of Woo?
Oh,
Bruh.
you're getting kind of smart there. The Wizard of Woo?
Yeah, dude.
You don't know who the Wizard of Woo is?
Obviously not.
Mr. Woo?
Again, not.
Mr. Woo, Mr. Wizard of Woo. That's Bernie Worrell. You know, in fact, I was going to do a story on that. This is a good time to do that. Because Bernie, man, he joined in with George Clinton. Now, not to knock George Clinton, but George Clinton didn't really play no instrument like y'all think. He was just, like I said, more of a referee. He brought in Bernie Worrell, and what you were hearing in a lot of that music from Parliament-Funkadelic was coming from the mind of Bernie Worrell. Now, we had the other instruments like Catfish was playing on Flashlight, and Bootsy was in there too. But the genius of a lot of those songs was coming from the mind of Bernie Worrell. And I want to get in that story tonight. That's a good one, V-Man.
Can we do Hong Kong Phooey after this?
That's not a good one, V-Man. Anyway, guys, we're going to get right in that story of Bernie Worrell, because let me tell you one thing. This guy deserves a documentary on his life, and you could probably do a new one every week. It's a big story behind it. Very humble guy, incredible mind, and we're just going to get into the story tonight, so hang around to the bottom. I'll see you then.
Dang, I like that cartoon.
Oh man, that's cool. Granddaddy is flirting around on the keys at the music store again. But there's something a little off here. He looks too comfortable, and he probably should be. Hey, who is this cat? Well, we're about to find out. When people talk about genius in music, they usually point to the loud ones, the flashy ones, the players in the center of the stage, with the crowd staring in their face in awe. But some geniuses change the world quietly, sitting off to the side in the dark, behind a rack of keys, shaping the sound before anybody even realizes what just happened. Bernie Worrell was one of those geniuses, and we're about to look at how he got so funky on the keys. Hey man, I'm telling you that there would be no modern funk without some of the things this man did in music. Facts. George Bernard Worrell Jr. was born on April 19th, 1944, in Long Branch, New Jersey. His dad was a truck driver and played some saxophone. His mom was pretty much a homemaker who sung in the church choir and played piano well enough to practice her singing at home. But it was already clear something special was happening with their child. His mom would sit him on her lap and teach him scales and stuff on the piano at 3.5 years old. He picked things up so well that she could see this young fellow was some kind of piano prodigy. Not in a cliche way, I'm talking about in a literal sense. She got him into piano lessons soon after, and he was already playing classical piano, eventually getting good enough to even draw media attention as he got older. But when he turned 8, his parents decided to move to Plainfield, New Jersey, where he would do most of his growing up. Plainfield was a place that quietly produced an unbelievable amount of musical talent if you searched. By this time, he began studying with Faye Barnaby Kent, a renowned local piano instructor. Bernie was her only black student, and his mother used to trade house cleaning services to pay for the lessons. He was studying advanced music theory and even wrote a concerto that same year. Then Mrs. Kent arranged for Bernie to play his first piano concerto in 1954 at the age of 10 with the Washington Symphony of Pennsylvania. But while he was mastering the classics, he was also the organist at St. Mark's Episcopal Church and the accompanist for a Jewish men's choir. This was not just your average church talent. This was conservatory-level brilliance, all before most kids figured out multiplication. That talent carried him all the way to the Juilliard School in New York City in 1958 when he was only 14 years old. He was one of the youngest students ever accepted for those advanced private studies. This young brother then went on to receive a degree from the New England Conservatory of Music in 1967. Classical training, discipline, structure, precision, everything his mother wanted for him. But here is the twist. Bernie did not want to live in a tuxedo on a stage in front of a snooty audience all his life. While he respected classical music, his heart was pulled towards something raw, something funkier, something that felt alive. During his college years in the mid-1960s, he played with a group called Chubby and the Turnpikes, an organization that eventually turned into the great group Tavares. But before he fully launched into the stratosphere, there was a bridge, a missing piece. Right after graduating in 1967, he spent the next few years as the musical director for soul singer Maxine Brown. He was out there on the road, sharpening his leadership skills and learning how to hold a professional band together. and that pull led him directly into the orbit of a wild creative force named George Clinton. Now the thing is, Bernie and George had known each other back in Plainfield, when Bernie used to come hanging around George's barbershop in the late 1950s.
Bernie is a genius of geniuses. I mean, there's nothing like Bernie because his interpretation of what synthesizers do, he could do before synthesizers was around.
George knew Bernie as a phenom on the piano and joked with Bernie that if he could ever actually afford to hire his services, he would. And now he could because he was riding with the Parliaments at the time and needed some real music know-how to back the funk he was now trying to roll with. Their professional meeting in the late 1960s would quietly change modern music forever. By 1970, Bernie was officially on board. Clinton could immediately see that this was more than just a keyboard player. Bernie was a musical brain. This dude could hear full arrangements in his head, strings, horns, basses, and put them on paper.
I hear in sound. I'm not too big on words, because words are genuine. I could care less about words.
He came up not being able to be as talkative or a whole lot of conversation, this, that, you know. He knew what he wanted to say, but he had to play it. That was his way of communication for real.
So, when Parliament and Funkadelic began shaping their sound, Bernie became the secret weapon, the bridge between street funk and high-level composition. And then came the element that changed everything, the Moog synthesizer. At a time when most people had no idea what a synthesizer even was, Worrell made that thing do the impossible. Now, Bernie's speech may not have been eloquent or super sophisticated, but his music and the sounds he could create with this Moog, man, he'd have that thing literally talk to you in a language of its own. No words, but in sounds that sent a message. And with the right mind, you could understand exactly what he was saying. And some of the first words he put down with Funkadelic were these. Nah, that's not a bass guitar. That is Bernie Worrell on a Moog synthesizer playing one of the most famous bass lines in music history.
When we recorded Flashlight, I actually played drums on it. And then Bernie overdubbed all of the synthesizers, the keyboards, the bass.
Flashlight was released in January 1978 and hit #1 on the R&B charts, staying there for weeks. It crossed over to the pop charts, sold millions, and permanently changed the role of keyboards in funk and popular music. By the way, Bernie was actually the second person to receive a copy of the original Moog synthesizer, and later appeared in a 2004 documentary, along with the Moog synthesizer pioneer himself, Bob Moog. And Bernie did not stop there. With Funkadelic, he helped create music that was darker, heavier, more psychedelic, and deeply emotional. This cat brought the funk to all the P-Funk hits. Bernie's keys were not meant to be pretty. They were haunting, unrestrained, and perfectly placed at the same time. He knew when to step forward and when to disappear. That mindset is the mark of real mastery. During this period, Bernie Worrell was at the peak of his creative powers. Touring the world, recording constantly, working with Parliament, Funkadelic, Bootsy, producing, arranging, and shaping entire albums. Financially, things looked good on the outside. Fame, recognition, respect among musicians. Let me just stop and say, there are too many groups and songs that Bernie contributed to for me to sit here and name. Just know, if it was 70s funk, then his name was somewhere in it. And he had his own thing, like Bernie Worrell and the Woo Warriors and the Bernie Worrell Orchestra, just to name a few, because Mr. Woo was everywhere back then, if you searched. But like many geniuses working behind the scenes, Bernie did not always receive the credit or compensation that matched his contribution. Business issues inside the P-Funk universe became complicated. Royalties were confusing, ownership was unclear, and while the music was winning, the money did not always land where it should have for him. In his personal life, he had his wife Judy, who became his manager, and whom he had met and fell in love with back in the days of working with Maxine Brown. They had one son named Basil together. Bernie was known as gentle, funny, and deeply thoughtful. He was not a loud personality. He was more likely to sit quietly, listening, thinking, absorbing. But like many artists of that era, he also carried the weight of excess, exhaustion, and health challenges. As the 1980s arrived, musical trends shifted, funk gave birth to hip-hop, and once again, Bernie Worrell was right there at the foundation. His sounds were sampled, studied, replayed, and reborn. Even when his name was not being mentioned, his fingerprints were everywhere. In the early 80s, Parliament-Funkadelic kind of took a hiatus from touring. Plus, the money had gotten a little funny for Bernie working with them. And that's when Bernie was available to be recruited by the Talking Heads as a touring and recording member, bringing funk sensibility into new wave and art rock spaces.
I couldn't keep still anymore. It was just too much fun. And the music became too funky and too danceable. So I had to kind of just give up and surrender to it.
He showed that his funk intelligence also applied in a different world. He performed with them during their 2002 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, while he was inducted with Parliament in 1997 himself.
Everywhere, what you are.
Now, did you know that Bernie played the keyboards on M2May's 1983 hit Juicy Fruit? And you know how big that thing was, right? In January 2016, he was diagnosed with at least 3 forms of cancer, including lung cancer. And the financial struggles that followed were painful to witness for someone who had played with so many different groups and organizations, while also contributing a whole lot of genius to music history and the industry. Fans and fellow musicians rallied to support him with a tribute and benefit concert soon after, recognizing that the architect of so much joy should not be forgotten or abandoned. The New England Conservatory of Music also gave him an honorary doctor's degree in May of that year. Man, Bernie Worrell fought like a champ, with his wife Judy by his side. But unfortunately, on June 24, 2016, Bernie Worrell would have already played his last note on keys. His music had stopped at 72 years old. And when Bernie left this world, music lost a mind that could hear the future before it ever arrived. But his legacy did not just disappear. It lives every time somebody funks it up with a synth, or lays down a fat synth bass line, every time funk collides with hip-hop, every time emotion is expressed through keys instead of words. Bernie Worrell did not just play music. He built worlds with sound. And once you hear it, you can never unhear it. He was a sideman that should have been a band leader. Yeah, that's how the story goes. Bernie Worrell, he's the one who was laying that stuff down. You know, everybody else gets some credit on those songs, but some of the ideas, the big ideas, were coming from the mind of a prodigy, of a genius, of a guy who was ahead of his time. Too bad we have to lose people like that in life. Well, anyway, guys, don't forget about the t-shirts. You got my email address. Check the channel for the email address. Contact me if you're interested in getting them. I keep putting that out there because, hey, if you're going to be part of the family, be part of the family. And I hope you guys appreciate that on the Music Mindset channel. Check you guys out later.